and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, this week we're taking a look at the IndiGo crisis. As things stand, the DGCA has said that the IndiGo airline should cut back at least 10% of their flights operations. Some semblance of normalcy is returning, but we saw the chaos of the last 8 days. More than, I think, nearly 4,000 flights were cancelled. We had over 7 lakh passengers affected. Crores was lost, and apart from that, the emotional loss, I think that is the big ticket question, and the branding and the image that India took. At the heart of all this is IndiGo, which corners two-thirds of the aviation market. It has flies to about 60% of sectors, at least domestic sectors, and Air India flies about 30%. So, we are talking about monopoly. We are talking about, and it's not that this, at heart of all this is, of course, the flight duty time limitations, which increase the number of hours a pilot has to rest between flights. This is not something that was a bolt from the blue. The decision was announced in November 23. They had enough time to implement it. Why did IndiGo not take stringent action? Why didn't they hire more pilots or do the needful? That is something we're going to be discussing. Was it arrogance on their part? Was it willful negligence? Were the regulators sleeping on the job? Who is at fault here? Because at the end of the day, it is you and I who really suffered and stood there, waited for our baggage, attended weddings through the internet because we couldn't reach the place in time. Your own wedding, by the way, that was. So stuff like that has been happening on airports and should not really happen again. Joining me on the show is Dilip Cherian. He is a brand guru and someone who knows the art of branding and also the importance of, I think, good economics, good image. I have with me Captain C.S. Randhawa. He is the president at the Federation of Indian Pilots and also former deputy chief flight operation inspector at the DGCA. I have Ajay Jasra. He's an aviation expert and he's also been a former corp communication at director for, sorry. And I have with me Ajay Jasra. He's an aviation expert and he's also former director corp communications at IndiGo. Dilip, the big picture really from you first. The kind of message that the mess has sent in the last 1 week and who is at fault?
There's no doubt that the fault lies primarily with the airline, which had instructions from its regulator, and it needs to have complied with it. The regulator is also at fault because it is the regulator's job to monitor what the airline is doing to conform to what it has prescribed. Then there is the board. The board is responsible because as someone who's been on the board of many companies, when there is a stipulation or a regulation, the board requires compliance to be notified by the management to the board so that the board knows that the people managing the airline are doing their work. Now, so there are 3 levels of at faults here. So I think that this is a mega scale mess up that needs far more stringent action than telling the airline to cut down 10% of its flights. That is actually punishing passengers. What you need to do is you need to ensure that the airline and the board are fined and brought to book because of what it did willfully. If it had happened because of happenstance, fog, multitude of problems, it's different. But here is a case where an airline clearly knew what was going on and needs to be pulled up for that. And 10% of flights being cancelled, unfortunately, is way too insufficient in terms of sending a message to the industry.
Captain Randhawa, you really, give us the insight from the pilot's point of view. Dilip has used strong words, willfully, and that's what we are also hearing. Arrogance, willful negligence. What really went wrong over there?
What you rightly said, Priya, that from November 23 onwards, the DGCA had put the draft CR on the website, and it was to be implemented by all the airlines. However, there was a big resistance from all the airlines to implement the CR. Now, since 2019, the Federation of Indian Pilots has been in the Delhi High Court regarding the FDTL CR, which has to be scientifically made. So after scientific studies and involving the doctors, they came out with a very good CR in November 23. Now, when it was being resented, the airlines just won't let DGCA implement because they were threatening them that there will be mass cancellations, that we will not be able to execute. However, it must be understood that these FTTL regulations are based on international norms and what other countries are following, and it is mandatory for any government to incorporate these regulations because they are in interest of the air safety for the passengers. Now, if you see thereafter what happened, that they kept delaying, they won't let the CR come. Then we knocked the doors of the Delhi High Court again, and we said, please expedite, because this is a serious issue, safety issue, and they're not letting it happen. Then they involved us. We had a couple of meetings with DGCA, and subsequently on 7th of April, the Delhi High Court gave an order that this needs to be implemented. It's very long since the time it has come. The airlines had ample time to get their recruitment, their pilots, everything, aircraft, everything in order. Now, once the order was given, again there was a resistance from the airlines. So meetings were held in DGCA in the month of April, and it was decided because we had to submit to Delhi High Court the implementation. We were saying immediate implementation. The airline said no. 15 clauses will be implemented on 1st of July, and the 7 clauses, balance 7 clauses on 1st of November. So accordingly, it was submitted to High Court, and it got implemented. Now see the sequence of action. There has been no cancellation or delays from 1st of July by any airline. Then second phase gets implemented. Moment the second phase got implemented, airlines went running, jumping to DGCA. They wanted some dispensation. So DGCA gave some dispensation, and IndiGo wanted more chunk. So DGCA was not agreeing. Then we had a meeting on the 24th of November with DGCA, and we said that safety cannot be compromised, and no variation should be given on safety matters by the DG, who has the authority to give dispensations. Then came 28th of November, when EASA and Airbus came out with a directive that 6,400 aircraft around the world, Airbus 320, they are supposed to undergo a software update. 200 IndiGo aircraft were involved. This was done in record time. In 1.5 days, IndiGo updated the software. Mind you, there was no cancellation. Now, on the 1st December, again, there was no cancellation. There were few cancellations in the month of November due to technical, due to some operational reasons, or some weather conditions, some sort of
routine stuff.
But routine stuff. But there was no cancellation merely so because of this issue. Additionally, what had happened, that they had applied for 6% extra flights from 1st of November, which DGC approved. That was DGC's fault, without checking the availability of the crew, the slots, the aircraft, parking, everything. They are supposed to check before the schedule is approved.
That is very interesting. I didn't know that.
So the schedule got approved. Now they have additional flights.
Okay.
Now they had to integrate because they were not able to, get the chunk of flesh which they were looking for from the DGCA, because being the largest airline, they think they can make the rules and run the country. So on 2nd of December, they had planned actually to integrate the networking software with the crew rostering, with the new rules in position. Now, when they were doing that, they should have had a manual backup. So they just went ahead and did the integration. With the result, the flights mass cancellations happened. Now, when the mass cancellations happened, you know that by 5th we hit 1,500 plus flights. Now, the beauty of the story is they're giving all flimsy excuses and a cover up in the reply. Weather, there's no weather. All over India, the weather is clear. There's no congestion. What congestion was there in Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta a few months back? It is same. And now, shortage of staff. Now, when they talk about shortage of pilots, they had only 65 captains short and 70 first officers. And that too with the increased schedule. And considering that they're going to fly more aircraft than what
Correct.
are scheduled to. So, with the result, they saved salaries of 135, 140 pilots, which is about 1,500 crores per annum. So, that is what they saved by not recruiting. Now, the point of issue is I have got a lot of IndiGo members in the FIP, and I found out from the airports that during this period, a lot of pilots were available in flight dispatch. They had gone for the flights. The cabin crew was available, 60, 70 number at the airports. Aircraft were there on the ground. But flight dispatch did not have the authority to release the flights. So that could have been a deliberate attempt to blackmail the government to agree to their terms, because the DGC is not accepted to give them a waiver, so threaten them.
Okay.
So
Let me
it is very, very evident.
Okay, let me bring in the others on this point. If Ajay, if it is deliberate, then who? I mean, IndiGo by holding the government, blackmailing them or whatever, they haven't really gained anything. They've just bought themselves time. But look at the loss, apart from the image, the monetary loss also.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. But what Captain Randhawa and Dilip have said is a more tactical right now, which has happened, but it was bound to happen, if you ask me. The kind of an ecosystem we have created, and I say the DGC and MOCA, if Captain Randhawa can vouch me for that, is one of the ministry which is run by Babus as well as the industry expert, the people from industry. And since the ecosystem is created where the professionals and the government is running parallel, and same professional can go back to the industry. So this is bound to be happen, because then DGCA and other organization can compromise on issues, and it was coming because this case was, if I'm rightly know that it came 2012, and then 2019 was the latest when it came back to the High Court. So this that old case, and it shouldn't have gone to the High Court in first place, because as Captain Randhawa said, it is the matter of safety, and safety cannot be compromised with, not with a few pennies and here and there. So that so there I realized that the complete ecosystem has been created in a way that when any airline which comes to a level where they have the numbers, they can always dictate. And unfortunately, the people who are to control them are also from the industry only. So I don't know if one person, the same person who was their boss, and now you are in the government, and how far you can pull the reins in your hand. So I think that this was bound to happen. We were just waiting for it. And recently, I traveled from Air India, and my friends asked me that why did you book Air India? I said I saw it coming in this season only, and all of the professionals, we understand that it was bound.
Yeah, so the nexus that you're talking about is a very familiar script. I think Dilip also knows it a bit too well. We've seen it in various sectors. It's sad that the aviation is getting hit by it. I'm going to take a quick break, but come back and keep the conversation going. So stay with us. Hello and welcome back to the Roundtable as we take a look at the fallout, or rather the ongoing IndiGo crisis. Dilip, 1,500 crore is all that IndiGo needed to take, as Captain Randhawa told us, to hire the requisite pilots. It even got additional, routes just in early December. Those are, I mean, there is clearly a nexus happening over here. When you know there are shortage of pilots, you're still giving IndiGo additional routes to fly, and then a week later you're hit by this crisis. You cannot be sleeping on the job. I mean, this is really, you're behind the wheel really on this one.
The fact that the Prime Minister's office had to step in and restore a semblance of order tells you everything you need to know, because you have a ministry and you have a regulator. And clearly, on the other side, you have a massive monopoly that rules the skies with 70% market share, and a very powerful set of promoters, board members, etc. We don't need to go into the personalities, but everybody knows the people involved. So the problem is what I would call a disbalance of power. Meaning, does it need the Prime Minister's office, which acted very swiftly to ensure that some semblance of order was brought into bear over the immediately after the visit of Putin? So it was distracted temporarily. The huge dislocation happened. Putin went off all television screens, replaced by IndiGo crisis, and then the Prime Minister's office steps in. So I think that this, in a sense, has sent a very sad message to the world that the Indian aviation sector is actually run by a monopoly power, and that the regulators, pilots associations, the safety of passengers are all given a go by. The 1,500 crores that would have been spent on pilots on an annual basis could have been saved, because there were multiple offers in the last 1.5 years that I am privy to, where people had offered a variety of training facilities to make sure that India's requirement for pilots, which is bound to grow in the future as aircraft supplies begin to improve over the next few years, you need to train more pilots. You need to make sure that you have them. And you need to make sure that the world sees that you're maintaining global standards in terms of pilot hours and passenger safety.
No, this is actually, thanks, Dilip, for this point, because the argument that is coming back is it's not so easy to hire so many pilots in such a short time. But Dilip says an offer was made.
2 years.
2 years. That's true. They had enough time. Captain Randhawa will also tell us a bit more about that in terms of hiring. And I believe if you take people from other airlines, the pilot has to give a very mandatory resignation period of 6 months. But like Dilip said, 2 years still covers that 6 months period.
Hang on. Even that has been done to protect an airline from poaching. So that was the reason. So DGCA, in a sense, acted in favor of the airline to make sure that it would not be the subject of poaching.
Okay, good point. Captain Randhawa?
Yes. I would say, first and foremost thing, pilot shortage is a perennial issue all around the world now, because the expansion of aviation is taking place, and unlike other fields, pilot, by the time he's ready to be operating into commercial flying, it takes a long time. Now, let us take the case of IndiGo. Now, it has two sets of aircraft. One is Airbus and the second is ATR. Now, when we talk about pilots training, when we talk about a commercial pilot who's trained, we talk about rated and non-rated pilots. The non-rated pilots are, if supposing a Boeing pilot is going to fly Airbus, he's a non-rated pilot. But an Airbus to Airbus from one airline to another one, he'll be a rated pilot. Now, when they hire the rated pilot, now where are the rated pilots in Air India? Now, to hire them, the DGCA had bought a regulation way back in 2018, in which they said that because people were hopping from one airline to another airline and flight schedules were getting affected, so the government came out with this, that you have to give 1 year of notice. Now, when they came out with 1 year of notice, so it tantamounted to almost a bonded labor, because nowhere in the world the regulator steps in on these issues. So we went to court and we got a relief. And we got a relief that 6 months notice has to be given, or the tenure of contract, whichever is higher. That is the court said. And in case there are terms of changes in terms of condition, then the pilot can leave immediately. No questions asked. Now, in this case, now let us take this example. What I have heard in the last few days, that IndiGo has been trying to poach pilots from Air India, because Air India has got surplus. They got almost 6,000 pilots. So their flying is less. So they're trying to poach the pilots from Air India. Okay. Now, in the pilot shortage, if you see, we have told the minister, this minister, the previous minister, Mr. Sindhya, we've been addressing this to him also, that you're getting 1,700 aircraft more in next 5 years. Herculean task to get the pilots. You don't have parking slots. You don't have the infrastructure. So in this country, no aircraft should come until unless the airlines have the capacity of having the manpower, whether it's pilots or ground crew, they have the slots, they have parking, and the infrastructure is ready. Until these things are adhered to, you should not get the aircraft, otherwise you'll create a total mess.
So when you said this, what was the response from the ministers?
Minister said, yes, we are creating this infrastructure. We are opening up so much of flying schools. Now, flying schools, these flying schools, the present DG, I had discussions with him, and they are not happy with the quality of training. Because in India, you always tend to do shortcuts. Now, shortcuts is not the answer in aviation. Aviation, you take a shortcut, you will pay a price.
Correct.
So the quality of training is not there. Each flying school which is capable of producing 30 pilots, they have recruited 250 pilots and taken 1 crore rupees or 60 lakhs, 70, 80 lakhs rupees from each pilot. And they are lingering on over there in the flying schools for 1.5 years, 2 years. So with the result, they prefer to go to US to do faster training. So the training infrastructure itself is lacking in the country. And the quality training is not being done.
Okay, I'm going to cut you short and ask you another question. Moving away from training, do you see this cutting back of 10%? This thing, is this the answer? How do you see the scenario unfolding for the next few months, at least till Feb?
Priya, this was the first question I asked the minister. We had a Zoom meeting on the 5th of December with him, and I asked him this question. That I said that you have increased 6% of the schedule of IndiGo Airlines without checking that they have the pilots available. So we demanded that you have given some dispensations. We demanded to immediately cancel these 6% increase. We are very happy that the government has cancelled 10%, and it will be given to the other airlines who will be able to utilize them. Because otherwise, these guys would have IndiGo. They are not able to even every day. The CEO, he says tomorrow. Yesterday also there were cancellations more than 350. Okay, still the situation is quite pathetic at the airports. So I don't think so that giving them a buffer till 10th of February for a safety condition to let the CR be held in abeyance is actually compromising safety. And we have demanded for immediate rollover. I think on 17th, we have a meeting with the ministry on this issue.
Okay. So, where did you see, where IndiGo went wrong? Was it just, it's not just the manpower, it's the arrogance or the fact that, first they should have just stayed as a low-cost carrier. They also tried to, I believe the joke is that he wanted to make a KLM out of this IndiGo also, the new CEO. So, where did IndiGo go wrong?
I think they didn't go wrong. I'm not put it that way, because for last it was filed in 2012. Till it was not implemented. So them and as well as the other airlines probably were under illusion that it will be passed this time also, and probably they didn't actually visualize that this is going to take place somewhere in November, which is actually the season. In fact, from the DGCA part also, when they have implemented in July, I think the next part, the 15, I think, are rules they implemented in July. Rest can be done in February. Why did they choose November and that December part? So
the holiday season.
IndiGo didn't see it coming, or they might have seen it, or they must have seen that like this will also pass kind of a attitude we have in our country.
Or it'll be managed. That's the right word, I think.
I don't know. Yeah, put it that way, that it will be managed, or they never imagine that DGCA will implement in season, because in November, December is a season for airlines too. And maximum people are traveling for holidays and vacations,
Correct.
and after Diwali, post Diwali, Chhat Puja, Christmas,
Hmm.
and so I think that part probably they didn't. And one more thing, and Captain Randhawa can vouch me for that, that they have many expat pilots. And expat pilots tend to take break in December.
So that is
So that
also.
probably could also have affected their roster. They didn't realize that these people is going to go, and they
Sure.
really would compromise on that, because that is
Okay.
one of the holiday the vacation they taken the whole year. That one.
Okay.
I realize
Okay.
that is the reason.
So, Dilip, final word to you, a larger picture, or, it's difficult to defend Indigo at this point, but, what is it in the ecosystem where it's very difficult to run a profitable airline and live to tell the tale? We've seen examples from Jet Airways to Deccan to various airlines that have not really made the cut. Is it, I mean, I know the cost is high. We talk about the lack of subsidies on the turbine fuel. In fact, so are we being very unfair to Indigo, or do you think that they really walked into this?
I think what I probably think is that the
Of course, Dilip.
government of India, I think that's let's allow me to. Government of India toward the attitude of all the
Hmm.
governments, not this government, all the past governments also, towards aviation is not a priority sector, despite it being a transportation. Uh, all the minister, most of the minister, if you just see the chronologies, these portfolios given to the junior minister in their coalition government. So it shows the what kind of a and same goes. I mean, for a donkey's year, the airline has been asking for the GST on ATF.
Hmm.
Bank loans for the aviation is not given. So, for the
Good
airline
points.
to survive in this kind of environment where government is also not taking you seriously, not that seriously. Udan
Hmm.
is there is a government has been intervened, but again, Udan has their own issues, which is different from this discussion. So I realize that if government is not taking them seriously, how can industry be survive? Then industry survive on their own and with various dynamics I've just told you with respect to DGC and MOCA and all the expertise and the pilots as Captain.
Good point. Yeah.
So
Okay.
that exactly. If you don't change the attitude, government has to take it very seriously, because
Yeah.
this country,
This is a wake-up call really for the entire
to wake
sector.
up all the industry, because take us seriously,
Industry.
only then they can survive. Otherwise, the Jet also closed, Kingfisher closed, and they were huge. They were actually big organization. Closing an
Correct.
airline is something should be taken as a blot on the government's performance, which is.
Good point. Dilip, last word to you.
I think that's a very good point that's just been made. We need to have aviation, and this government has announced that it intends to ensure that the common man has the right to transportation infrastructure, including airlines. So I think it is not about castigating Indigo alone. It is about making sure that we treat the airline business as something that needs to get out of a duopoly into a multipoly. You need to create competition in this business. You need governments to start lending money to airlines. And you need the regulator to understand that allowing competition is also part of the job of a regulator. It is not just to regulate what exists, it is to regulate so that others can survive and provide competition. Only then will an industry really evolve.
Well said. In fact, I'm going to end with this quotation someone gave me the other day, which is the fastest way to become a millionaire is for a billionaire to invest in an airline, which is really the way it is going. I think the regulator really needs, this is a wake-up call, as we said, for everybody in this industry. And I do hope that some lessons will be learned from here. Otherwise, we'll just keep having discussions like this. Another airline, same discussion. I hope that doesn't happen. Thank you for this conversation.